Hello, live streaming to YouTube. It's been a long time since I've been on YouTube here. It's because I've just been so darn busy, and it's going to get even worse next couple weeks. It's going to be so nasty. I have weeks where I have like 7 days in a row of work, of like actual events and stuff like that. So I'm trying to mentally prepare for myself for that. I'm trying to clean up my office, trying to clean up my house. Got my car in the garage, so that's good. So things are kind of looking up for me on that particular direction. But yeah, so I wanted to get on here, at least try to get back into the rhythm of doing some live streams and hanging out with you guys. I don't have any particular topic to talk about. I haven't been able to watch anything really. I've been just going, doing work, and then coming back home. I've been doing a musical lately, so I've been doing the musical called "The Mystery of Edwin Drood" with the high school that's nearby, and the high school decided to do a bunch of have a bunch of musicians come in and play for live to have live music. So we did that, and oh, I gotta turn it on. No, never mind. It is on. So say hi, and yeah, I don't know what else to talk about other than just to hang out with you guys and just kind of just shoot the breeze and talk about movie making and stuff like that. I was a little late. I wanted to do this a little earlier, but I was trying to get my. I bought a wheel for my RS3 Ronin, and I discovered now that the wheel doesn't seem to want to work with the Ronin at all. Like it literally does not want to work. Say hi in the chat so I know the chat's working. I haven't seen anybody in the chat yet. But yeah, I was working with that before I got on the stream, and I kind of gave up on that. I'm like, I don't think it's going to work. So if anybody has any tips on how to get the RS wheel to work with it, um, there you go. Okay, so we've got one comment. I'm wondering if this is the same guy that's been stalking me for all this time, trying to get me to answer the question. Well, you got me live, so let's see. How much is 1024 by 7680 pixels at 6024 frames per second? How much is it? It's a lot. You're talking about an 8K image, I imagine. I never even heard of a 1024 by 760. Well, then that put it on the screen. There it goes. I've never actually heard of that size image resolution, although that looks like 10K maybe image resolution. I'm not even quite sure what that is. But I think this is the safe thing to answer is that if you need to ask, you don't need to worry about it. If you need to ask that question, then you don't need to worry about it. So that's my take on that. Howdy, Junebug Films. How you doing? Are you the same Junebug that emailed me? Try to remember. I needed to respond to that email. I just never did. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh no, never mind. Yeah, how you doing, Junebug? What's going on? I'm about ready to wrap up my class. It's kind of I did the great big frame rate lecture the other day. No, it wasn't you that emailed. It was Rigel7 that emailed. They need to respond to that email. Yeah. So, yeah, there's that. I know it's not. I feel like I'm kind of dry because I don't have an opening topic. So I'm kind of just going on the seat of my pants here. Like it's been so. I don't really understand how I've been so busy. I've just been like busy like the last couple weeks. Just like, well, I guess. Well, I guess. I just realized I did have Tech Week last week, which explained why I was so busy last week. Like every night I was at the theater and doing tech for Edwin Drood. And if anybody's watching Edwin, that's in the orchestra pit with me, we are at 7 viewers right now, so probably not. Basically, when we did Edwin, I did Edwin Drood. I saw Edwin Drood in like early 2000s, and I was like a annual subscriber to Performance Riverside, and I liked it, but I didn't. But I honestly didn't remember a single thing about it, other than the fact that the conceit of Edwin Drood is that you get to vote on the ending. So the mystery of Edwin Drood is based on a novel by Charles Dickens. Now, Charles Dickens died while writing this novel, and he didn't actually leave any plans of how he was going to finish it. So he wrote like 60% of it or so, and then died, and then didn't have an ending. So a lot of people kind of like speculated on how it would end it. I actually found it was really fascinating that there was a trial of John Jasper. So John Jasper. So the whole story is about a guy named obviously Edwin Drood, but he's got an uncle or no, yeah, he's got an uncle who's madly in love with a woman that Edwin Drood is betrothed to, and they were betrothed to each other. Him and Edwin Drood and Rosa Budd were betrothed to each other when they were born. So they're not really like in love with each other, but they're set to be married. But John Jasper is madly in love with Rosa Budd. And then there's a bunch of other characters and all yada yada yada. And basically, turns out John Jasper is kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde character, where he's like really more Hyde. He's really just a nasty guy. He like smokes opium and like has these weird visions, and he wants to murder Edwin Drood, right? He wants to kill him, but then Edwin Drood disappears. And then there's a whole bunch of other characters involved. Like everyone has like their own motives, but most people think it's John Jasper that wants to kill Edwin Drood. Most people assume that it is. And so they actually had something called the Trial of John Jasper, which is really kind of fascinating. The trial, let's see, let me look it up real quick. The Trial of John Jasper. And so the Trial of John Jasper is basically a follow-up. Now, this is after obviously Dickens had died, and a lot of the great authors at the time came together and created this trial, essentially. And trial John, late precentor of the Cloisterham Cathedral of Kent. So it was presented, and G.K. Chesterton was actually presiding over it. I'm trying to find some information on this thing. Charles John Jasper, I think it was Wicked. It became a book. I don't know. I kind of went down through some of this stuff, but it's I didn't get all the way through. G.K. Chesterton as the judge of the trial of John Jasper for the murder of Edwin Drood. He committed all present except himself for contempt of court. It's just this kind of like all these literary figures. G.K. Chesterton, and then George Bernard Shaw was the lead foreman of the jury. So just kind of a fascinating thing. Anyhow, the musical is actually written by Rupert Holmes. Rupert Holmes, if you don't know, well, most people probably wouldn't know, wrote the Pina Colada song. Oh, who would have thought? He's best known for, if you like pina coladas and you like getting stuck in the rain. What is it? So apparently, so he wrote the Pina Colada song about a guy that's getting kind of tired of his marriage, and then putting a personal ad and responding to Pina Coladas. Now, the funny thing about the Pina Colada thing, so the Pina Colada song originally wasn't about pina coladas. The original lyrics said, "If you like Humphrey Bogart and getting caught in the rain." But the thing is, like, he's like, well, I've written some other songs about Humphrey Bogart. I've got kind of an obsession with Humphrey Bogart. Maybe I should find something else besides Humphrey Bogart. And then he said, well, this is quoting him here. What can I substitute? Well, this woman wants to escape. She wants to go on vacation to the islands. When you go on vacation to the islands, you don't order a Budweiser. What do you have? You have a hollowed out. You want a drink with a hollowed out pineapple with flags of all nations on the parasol. If the drink is blue, and you'd be very happy. There's a long straw. I thought, what are those escape drinks? Let's see. There's daiquiris. There's Mai Tais, pina colada. I wonder what pina colada tastes like. I've never even had one. So he never had a pina colada, and he wrote the Pina Colada song, which everybody knows as the Pina Colada song. So Rupert Holmes writes this song. Writes this musical. The musical is very like English music hall. So it's very, English music hall is sort of like late Victorian era, kind of, top hats and think Dickens era-esque kind of a thing, body humor, limericks, jokes, stuff like that. And when I first played it, Honestly, when I first sat down to look at the music, I didn't like the score at all because it just felt so angular. It felt so like ding dong ding dong ding dong dong ding dong ding. It's like there's nothing melodic about it. The whole show is not very melodic. There's only one song that would have like a classic like melodic structure, in my opinion. Like everything is just angular and difficult, and I just didn't care for it really. Now that I finally understand the story, because the story was so convoluted for a long time for me to figure out what the heck is going on, I finally got to starting to appreciate the actual musical, and now I'm having fun because the second act is the fun part because the second act is when you get to interact with the cast because that's the part where you get to vote. By the way, didn't I explain it the whole thing? So we don't know who killed Edwin Drood, and at the very end they pick one of the 8 characters that they think killed the Edwin Drood, and then we have to rush in our music to find the song that's that particular person's killer to like play. Anyhow, so that's what I'm doing. That's what I've been doing for the last 6 nights. 5 nights. Today will be the 6th night. Tomorrow I get to rest. Although tomorrow I'm gonna be shooting some Cinco de Mayo concerts, so I'm gonna be on my feet and carrying that Ronin S, the heavy stuff. Junebug says nothing wrong with being obsessed with Humphrey Bogart because we need more men like that now on the screen. Yes, that's true. The Humphrey Bogart. Matt Thathius writes in, random question. What is the average age of students in your class? Do you teach filmmaking to young film students of all ages? The youngest in my class, I think, would be 17 or 18 because it's a college class. So I think they need to be, there's nothing stopping them from taking the class, I guess, as a pre-graduate from high school, but most of them are postgraduate. So the average age probably, of the students in that range will be probably in their 20s. Late teens, early 20s. I have in my class, I have a woman that's 31 years old. I have a man that's probably in his 60s. So he's a retired judge. So next week I'm going to talk about law. So I'm curious to see how he takes what his opinion on my opinions on the legal matters. But I don't think I have particularly bizarre legal opinions, but it'll be interesting to see his take on stuff like that. So last week I did the frame rate lecture, which I think bored them. I think there's only so much frame rate you can take. Honestly, I think most people who are not weird can only take a discussion of a frame rate for about 20 minutes, and I went on for about an hour and a half. And then Friday I did a history of Hollywood horror, which I thought went over a little bit better because once I started getting toward the end of the discussion, it got a little more lively, and they asked me what was my favorite horror movie, and I was having trouble thinking of one. I just went with one of those that just popped in my head. It's like The Shining. Just go with The Shining. That's easy enough. I can't think of anything that's particularly obtuse to think of as far as horror film, the horror genre. Nathan Maglievas, thank me to the stream. Woohoo! Yeah, I haven't streamed in a long time. It's been a long time. I've just been kind of busy and trying to keep my stuff clean and try to do stuff, so it's been a while. You would listen to an hour and a half of frame rates? I think some people would, but I think most of my students probably just glaze over. They're like, 24, 30, who cares? I kind of covered everything I covered in I have 7 videos on my playlist about frame rate. And I touched on a little bit of every single one of them. Humphrey Bogart and later Frank Sinatra in his albums in the 50s defined the type of masculinity as about great sense of style and manliness, while also having emotional vulnerability. Very much so. Although, wonder how much of it was, kind of a phony packaged thing, Hi, John. Is there a way to take a class remotely? I don't think there's a remote. We're not offering any at the college for remote stuff. But hey, Rigel7, alrighty. That's what I was looking for your email. Yeah, sorry to respond. I'll respond to your email. But yeah, so feel for you. We'll go more details on that. But take a listen. The numbers, last name, how many bits per pixel is enough? If you have to ask that question, then you are not ready to handle the answer. Sometimes I tend to. So this one guy, and I think this is him. He's literally been stalking me, and he's making a bunch of accounts. I'm just going to be honest. brutally honest here. And this it may or may not be this guy, or it might be another one of his sock puppets. So he basically comes on here and he creates different sock puppet accounts to ask me the same damn question every single time, which is something about like how rolling shutter. Like he's obsessed with rolling shutter to the point where it's like, and I try to answer the question. And the thing is, I don't like to answer questions in a way where I just write you a long ass paragraph. I like to answer questions in a way that forces you to think about what you're asking, because that's really, really what's more important. If I just said, here's a Wikipedia, if I just spout off a Wikipedia article, chances are they won't read it. And most of the time, well, they won't read it. Let's just be honest here. So, then, so this guy's been coming on the account, and I've been trying to ban him because I just can't take the 50th question about rolling shutter, about how fast rolling shutter occurs, because he's got this strange idea that rolling shutter means and shutter speed are the same thing. And it's like, I've said it a million times. They're not the same thing, but he just can't accept it or understand it or whatever it is. And he's gotten like abusive and anyhow. So, the question, when you have questions like, how many bits, when you start throwing numbers like, a 10K image per second and how many bits is enough, it's like you don't seem to understand the answer. Because if you're asking yourself, is 10K good enough for movie making, like, are you just stupid in that? How are you so isolated in your own understanding of the world? Like when you go to the movies, when you buy a TV or you watch a TV show, do you not see that 10K is enough, or 10K is more than what you're seeing? It's like, so a lot of times I think when I get some people, they get into this realm where they are so obsessed with some numbers, and it's like, but you don't understand the word. You don't even you've so focused on numbers in your spec sheet that you've forgotten that you have experience in the world, and you forget that. You forget, and I think this happens. I guess we're going to talk about frame rate. This happens with frame rate all the time, right? It's the gamers who get into the world of the spec sheet of like, oh, my game needs to run at 60 frames a second. My game needs to run at 158 frames a second. My game needs to run at 240 frames a second, or else I'm not a pro gamer. Okay, you get so like tunnel vision into frame rate without realizing your whole life you've watched movies at 24 frames a second. So anyhow, so folks like this tend to like get hyper focused on a certain thing, and it's like you gotta go back and experience like life or experiencing the world, and stop honing in on these weird like specs. Nice how I teach filmmaking to young students. Well, they're not super young. That's great. That's why I didn't care much about frame rate. There's so much more to art and filmmaking. Yeah. So, what's funny? This has happened. I've talked about frame rate in my classes twice now. And both times I've asked them, hey, have any of you seen Avatar 2? And literally like one or two students in each of my class has raised their hand saying they saw Avatar 2. So we got a movie that's like a $2 billion box office movie. And yet my class, which is whatever random sample of people in my class, like I've had like 4 people total over 2 semesters have seen the movie. It's like when people say, oh, Avatar, John, you are so wrong. Avatar 2, so many people saw it. It made so much money at the box office. Like, yeah, but not many people saw it. It's weird. Anyhow. Yeah, I love the how-tos and history on years back, almost a decade. Hope you've been well. I'm thinking about that too. Like, I've wondered, like, okay, so what's changed in the YouTube space? Like, because I've looked back on my old hit videos too, and I'm thinking like, those were fun days. But it feels like YouTube can't the type of video that works on YouTube doesn't really, or YouTube doesn't reward that type of video anymore. Like the kind of the how tos and the histories of. I mean, I'm sure I could do another history of, and it would, but it would probably be like meager. It would do okay. Like I want to do another studios video. I said about Universal. I keep talking about it and I keep thinking about it right now. Well, right now I don't think about it because I've got so much work lined up right now for me. But like, it's just so. It's just YouTube doesn't seem to be a place for that kind of content. I mean, there's a place obviously, but it's not like it doesn't really do very well. Anyway, that's what I'm saying. Cinema says I look different. Congrats. Yeah, I hope so. Well, it does help that I'm wearing black. That's that's kind of cool. But I have been like trying to lose weight. I guess I've lost about like 15 pounds from the heaviest I've been, but I'm kind of right now kind of floating. I'm trying to get my blood pressure down. That's the primary concern, and then also right now I've just got so much stress I can't do any kind of like work like serious working out or exercise. So I've been kind of lax on the exercise angle of it, but I've been doing a lot of work. So I guess I need to go back to exercise. I need to go to the gym again. I like to go swimming. My swimming is my thing to do because it's cool, it's relaxing, and then afterward I can sit in a jacuzzi and it feels good. So anyhow, a view of just 24 or 30 FPS is similar to the conversation in the previous stream, which cameras is the best, isn't it? Haha. Yeah. Well, 24 and 30 are significantly different enough. Yeah. I love the trolls who ask the same question over and over again. Sarcasm is wonderful. Well, he's back. Sinatra says the love of the girls in the 40s, but reinvented persona in the 50s as he got older after traumatic ending of his marriage with Ava Gardner. He made some very sad albums in the 50s. He does have a very, he did have a very, very dark, very dark, some you can hear the tinge of like sadness. But you wonder like, well, I mean, the thing is like Frank Sinatra probably could have any girl he wanted to. So I don't know. I don't know. Junebug says he still hasn't seen Avatar 2, maybe because he doesn't care. Generally speaking, that's probably a good idea. 144p has a small file size and looks good. Well, there you go. I mean, if he's not kidding, then 144 pixels, 144. If you want to do 144p, if you want to do the 144 pixels tall, knock yourself out. Do you think that looks good? Go for it. Are young college film students far more positive towards Spielberg than older film critics, often deriving him as a top two populist? Yeah, so young college, well, it depends. There are some young folks that have a very, very, what do you call it, snobbish approach toward filmmaking. I actually haven't had any in my class necessarily. Although I did have one. Okay, so I can tell you about some students. I won't mention names because, frankly, I don't remember all the names. Well, I know this guy's name. He didn't actually have a name. Like when he first signed up for class, he signed his name as Smiley Face, like colon parentheses Smiley Face. And you know what, Gen Z? What are you going to do, right? He had a preferred name was Smiley Face. I'm like, what do you want me to refer to you as? Smiley Face? All right, Smiley Face. And he was like, no, you can call me by my last name. All right, fine. So I called him by his last name. Now, he was kind of a snobbish filmmaker. I wouldn't call him filmmaker. Like, a lot of students come to my class who are snobbish, who like come to my class, because my class is an intro class, and it's very, very, like, very, very, what do you call it? Introductory class. So it's very like, I'm going to start at the very beginning and we're going to learn how to use Premiere. We're going to learn, like, we're going to cut stuff together. And any student that comes in the class thinking that they're too advanced for the class, I tell them this. It's like, well, it's up to you. You can take the class, but if you feel like you're advanced, then I want you to take the class, but then do so good that you try to impress me with your work. And let me tell you something, everybody that does that, or everybody that thinks they're too good for the class, they aren't close. Like you got everybody that thinks they know how to do Premiere and thinks they know how to work Premiere and thinks they know how to edit. You're not even close. You're not anywhere near ready. And that's maybe my own egoism, but it isn't. It isn't. I get work from these students that are like this one student. I think I think it was this semester. He eventually dropped out, but he was like he. Well, no, I don't forget which semester it was. Anyhow, he eventually did drop out. But he thought he was like, he thought he knew it all. Like he just, and he walked in the first assignment, the first like major assignment is to go out and find free stock footage and prepare a little montage of using free stock footage and free music, like expressing a mood, feeling, idea. Okay, he comes back and all his clips have watermarks on them, iStock photo, whatever, all the watermarks on it. And I'm like, dude, you can't use watermark footage. Like, you have to use free stuff. He's like, I didn't know that. Well, you didn't know that, but everyone else in this class didn't use watermarked footage. So, yeah. And then, when I look at their projects, they're completely sloppy. There's no organization. It's just, they don't take it seriously because they think they know what they're doing. And maybe they do. Although, honestly, never met a student that actually knew what they were doing. Never met it. Never done it. So, like, I would tell students, like, if you think you know your stuff, cool. Go with me on this journey and then try to impress me when you turn your projects in. Try to, like, really push me hard, and I will push you hard back. But, like, I've never seen a student that thought they knew what they were doing that actually does know what they're doing. So... Yeah, you would love to have the DVD copies of them. So when I first started the thing, I wanted to pitch it as an idea for like actual production, and I was thinking it'd be cool to like submit it to like PBS or something like that and get PBS to kind of fund it. But I don't know if PBS would be, I don't know how many hoops I'd have to jump. There's a difference between being able to do it independently and then if I did it for PBS, what would all the things I would need to oblige myself to with PBS? So it might just be something that I just try to find some time to do. So I mean, right now I've got State of the City for my hometown. I've got 2 videos I need to finish editing for them. I'm starting to shoot an awards ceremony thing on Monday and Tuesday, which I have to edit and have like 10 separate videos made by the following week. Then I've got Cinco de Mayo concert tomorrow. What else? Student of the Month, Student of the Year programs I've got to shoot. Wrapping up my final class, and that's just this week. And then the following week I have Student of the Years, podcast I do for the city, live stream for the city, multiple Students of the Years, and I don't know how I'm going to survive this. But as long as I'm mentally prepared, as long as I see it coming, I can prepare for it, right? So 1440p looks good. 144p is not good in my opinion. That's my thought. But he thinks 144p is good. So, all right. Would you critique a 1-minute project that I submitted for competition? Let's see what your thoughts are. Sure, I put it on there. We might have some time today. Matthias says, I saw a series of YouTube called No CGI is Really Invisible CGI. That's true. Yeah. I follow this one guy, Todd Vizio? Todd something another. Todd Vizio or something? Vaziri on Twitter, on X. He's a rather interesting character. Todd Vaziri is like is a long time VFX supervisor, going all the way back to like Star Wars and not the original one, but like Transformers, Star Wars, Rogue One, Iron Man. I mean, just like tons and tons of like work. Lead artist, supervisor. I think his oldest credit goes all the way back to like, let's see here. His oldest credit goes all the way back to Iron Man 2, Star Trek from 2009. Hey, he's working on the Colbert Report, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, Van Helsing, Signs. Oh my gosh. Raced Bones, Original Sin, Heartbreakers, Driven, Hollow Man. American Pie. My gosh, 1999. His first credit is Hercules: Legend Continues from '95 to '97. So he's been in the industry for like 25 years. Really interesting follow, and he hates the whole like no CGI nonsense. It's such an overblown thing. Hey, Bruin Flight, how you doing? Let's put some comments on the screen. Tucker says, how did I get my first filmmaking gigs? So my first filmmaking gigs I got because I worked at a cable company. And so now I don't, so, you know, a lot of people that go into filmmaking want to go into making movies and stuff like that. And I think to get paid making movies is, I mean, it's possible, but I think you have to be in a very specific location. You have to be a very specific group of people you have to find. So I can't give you good advice on that, but I do a lot of commercial work, which you can do basically anywhere. There's need for commercial work everywhere, right? And so my first gigs were doing, because I had an internship at a cable company making local cable commercials. You know, the type of commercials you see back in the day when you used to watch TV. You would see like, you know, come see Lucy Cow, you know, or not Lucy Cow, go see Cow, go see Cow, go see Cow. And there was like, you know, car dealerships and mom and pop restaurants and stuff like that. I used to do a lot of those commercials. I miss that stuff. Nowadays it's, I mean, now you could do it for like what, social media. That's where it would be. But yeah. Apologies in advance, but speaking of rolling shutter and film cameras, I read somewhere that it takes about 1 millisecond for to scan a frame. Is it plausible to be true? I think so. Like, so when you talk about like the rolling shutter, and again, this is this one guy, a stalker, that just kept going on about it. But yeah, like it's conceivable that it would take a millisecond to like completely scan a frame. It might take longer than that. It might take 8 milliseconds. The thing people don't realize though is when you watch TV, when you watch an image on your phone, even if you watch something on your phone and you watch something on your big screen TV, it also rolling scans. I don't know if you guys knew that. Like it actually builds the image from top to bottom. It rolls. It's a rolling shutter, essentially the rolling shutter as well on your TV and your phone. Like if you took your phone and did like super slow mo and just shot a screen, you would see it rolling. And I asked the Blurbusters guy, Chief Blurbuster there. I asked him, hey, so why does it do that? Well, he said, well, think about it. How are you going to get the data to the screen? Do it line by line. That's the only thing that makes sense. Like data is a stream of data, right? Like you just don't construct a frame in one go. You want to do it line by line because that's what the data stream works. That's how it makes sense. And the thing is though, like it wouldn't necessarily be a noticeable thing if your phone was global shutter, global image all at one time versus rolling. Like visually, it's the same thing. You know, it doesn't really affect how your viewing experience, your viewing experience goes. So yeah, so it's definitely conceivable that for a camera to have a rolling shutter of 1 millisecond, although I'd say probably be closer to like 8 or 10 milliseconds. I think. I mean, I don't know. I'm not up to. I mean, it's completely up to cameras. You know what cameras can do. I mean, think like a camera. At least photo cameras can take photos at 1/20,000th of a second or something like that. Or I don't know how high my 10,000th of a second. You can get your shutter speed very, very small. So 10,000th of a second is 0.8, 10,000th of a millisecond is 0.1 milliseconds. So now, of course, they're also it's a scanning. It's so. Even though the exposure is 0.1 milliseconds, it might be, the whole readout might take a millisecond kind of thing. So, can still see the rolling shutter effect on limited data connections. Yeah, I guess so. Hey, how you doing, Bullet Silence? Let's go back to Matthias's comment. One of the points made were that all the hype about virtual sets, they're essentially more modern versions of purpose served by good old matte paintings and rear projections. In fact, matte paintings still exist, but now can be 3D and painted digitally. One of the points is that Hitchcock, for example, used matte paintings and rear projections as much as possible. That's true. You know who else uses matte paintings and rear projection? And that is Neil Breen. Neil Breen. Neil Breen. I've heard that film cameras have rolling shutter. Have you heard? Yes, it's true. Well, yeah, because a film plane has a shutter, right? I mean, it's really where the term for rolling shutter comes from, is because the film plane itself, the shutter is a wheel, right? So it rolls. It's like there's a little gap in the wheel, right, where the film is exposed. So as it exposes, the top part of the frame may be exposed just slightly earlier than the bottom part of the frame, right? Because the shutter's like that. So yeah, definitely, that's where the film has rolling shutter too. It just happens to be a little bit more because if you have a very very narrow shutter speed, right, or narrow shutter angle, then yeah, the top of the film gets exposed and then gets covered up, and the bottom film part, it gets covered up by the time the bottom part of the film gets exposed, right? But if you have a relatively long exposure, like say you've got 180-degree shutter, it's the whole thing is going to be exposed at one point, so the rolling shutter gets kind of gets blurred, right? But yeah, there's rolling shutter in film too. Matthias is going on with, so they only are able to see the problematic aspects of the film. It blinds them to the depth it actually has, and how it isn't so simple, and how it's far from typical Western of the era. I think we're talking about, let's go back here. Leone. Recently said someone that considering how young people are far more likely to watch a Leone Western than a modern one, they lack the context to see how progressive The Searchers was. I get you. Yeah. I think, what was I showing them? Oh, I was showing them Cat People. Because I was trying to explain in the history of horror, like how the elements of horror were needed to get, in place. Because the first horror movies were nothing but skeletons and like marionette skeletons, basically. So when what was that? Oh, the rolling shutter. Yeah. Never mind. I'm getting confused here. So what I'm saying was the marionettes, and then in the 30s you had the universal horror genre with like Draculas and Frankensteins, mummies, and all that stuff. And I was showing them like it took till about the 40s when they started to really kind of understand how to use, because Dracula is not necessarily scary in the terms of like the way filmmaking techniques are scary. Like Dracula uses like atmosphere and like gothic horror in order to induce kind of the sense of horror. It's not like what we would consider nasty or scary by today's standards. It's not like terrifying. It's not going to viscerally make you like, oh. It's more like it's like a dread kind of a feeling, kind of a horror. Whereas nowadays, the shock and terror of modern day horror, the jump scares and stuff like that, are a much more modern creation. And I was showing them Cat People. And Cat People, I showed them the scene where it was just a girl walking down the sidewalk, and she keeps looking behind her, and she gets walked further and further away, and all of a sudden, like a bus like picks her up, and it's kind of a jump scare, but it's like a 1947 movie with a jump scare in it. And I was like, it's kind of cool to see the evolution of a jump scare, So we're using these techniques now, like think about it, like the way, like Frankenstein. Okay, so I'll show them the scene from Frankenstein. And it uses a set piece, it uses lighting, it uses theatrics to create kind of an exciting scene where he's like, it's alive, right? The whole thing lifts up, and there's storm, there's sound, there's all kinds of music. There's actually no music. It's just all sound effects and people screaming and dials and So it uses like theatrics to create a sense of excitement, but doesn't use filmmaking technique. Like there's not like a purposely done technique. Whereas like Cat People, where the whole thing is done with kind of just showing you images. Instead of using a set, it's using like an actor's reaction, some sound effects, some cutting away, making sure we don't see what they're looking for. It uses technique rather than set design. If you get what I'm saying. And once that starts happening, then the horror genre can really take off. So, what happens will rolling shutter and slow motion does incremental change that in that many frames stop it being noticed? What happens with rolling shutter and slow motion? Oh, so slow motion is basically you capture a higher frame rate, right? So, and the thing about rolling shutter, you have to remember is that it's not tied to any particular frame rate or any particular shutter speed even. Like it's just the readout of the sensor, however fast the sensor can be read out at one time, and obviously, this is look at, I think a good example that you probably experienced with that with the phantom cameras, right? If you want a higher frame rate, you basically reduce the number of pixels you read out. So the thing can read out really fast, but now instead of reading out the entire sensor, you got to read a continually smaller and smaller portion of the sensor so that you can just read just sections of it. So yeah, I think the mistake, especially my stalker made, is like rolling shutter readout speed is not tied to any physical aspect like shutter speed. It's just different. You can have a shutter speed that is longer or shorter than the readout speed. So, yeah, 30s, 40s horror reminds me of a filmed stage play. Very much so. I think I was kind of trying to basically said exactly what I was trying to get at. The TCM Festival this year showed a brand new digital restoration of The Searchers, projected 70 millimeter. Lawrence Arabia was starting to show now. Wow. I would like to go to the movies more. I want to see those 70. I want to see those old films. I miss watching those kind of movies. I saw someone say that how often he seriously wonders if slow motion overall did more good or bad to filming because how overused how badly done slow motion is. Well, it's like every tool in filmmaking, I don't think slow motion. I honestly though do think if we want to bring it down to more of an amateur level, I think young people are way too obsessed with slow motion. Like I've heard so many people say that they want to have like their must for a camera is it's got to shoot 240 frames a second. It's got to have that. It's like in my line of work, I use like slow motion barely once a year, barely if I even bother. So I never ever shoot slow motion, and I shoot a lot of B-roll stuff, but I never need to shoot slow motion. Like I mean, I guess if I was shooting more weddings, maybe I would shoot more slow motion and just to capture like things like the ring or I don't know, cutting. But even cutting cake is not particularly interesting in watching it in slow motion. Like, there's hardly any reason to watch stuff in slow motion to me. I mean, I guess a lot of people say that, when you shoot B-roll of product stuff, like, okay, shoot it in slow motion. That way you can kind of get all the bumps out so you can get you a little bit of leeway when you slow it down. I don't know. That's just not, I don't know. I just don't, maybe I'm just doing something wrong. I'm doing a lot. Maybe I'm doing a lot of stuff wrong. I don't know. I'm tired. Can you tell I'm tired? I'm a little tired. I saw a screening of Alien last week. Ooh, cool to see in theater. It's always great to see those old movies in theater, especially like us. I always keep going back to what's it called? Blade Runner in the movie theater. Like watch Blade Runner in the movie theater, like the first, Ridley Scott version, because there is something about Blade Runner that works so well in the movie theater that just doesn't work. And the Red Letter Media guys kind of hit it on the head because there are scenes in Blade Runner that feel just so drawn out and boring, but they're not in a theater. They are if you're watching it at home on your TV, but as on the theater, they absolutely. Baywatch the movie shot entirely in slow motion. Fun fact. Some people say it's a no. Oh yeah. Bullet Sign says, my hire company had an obsession with the probe lens and a robotic arm traveling 80 miles an hour shooting 500 FPS. Those probe lenses are fascinating, but it's like, What would I ever do with one? Okay, like sometimes I still have a little bit of the old filmmaker IQ, like trying to figure out like topics that are interesting. I don't know. There is a segment of YouTube where it's nothing but just like technology for technology's sake. Uh, and I just don't. I don't know. I guess I would say I'm burned out on a lot of the kind of filmmaking stuff on YouTube. Like it just burns me out. Like I literally don't care about like reviewing a new lens. Like, it's the worst thing in the world. Somebody was asking me because I went to NAB and like, hey, are you gonna do NAB coverage? Like, no. I hate like convention coverage. It's the worst. And you know what's funny about NAB and the conventions is now they still do them, but I think they don't spend as much money as they used to because when I went to NAB, they're like, "Oh yeah, stay tuned. We got an announcement coming up real soon, guys." It's like, well, in the old days, you would make your announcement at NAB. Like that's when you make your announcement. Now they're like, well, we got stuff up our sleeves, guys, so watch out. I was like, I mean, I just go to NAB just to go to Vegas for a couple days. And even then, I had to cut it short because I had a job. So I didn't get to spend as much time as I wanted to. Yay, I'm alive. No kidding. Barely. 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 Yeah, I need a lot of for Pro F14. Holy moly. Yeah, because they're so long, right? Yeah, just imagine the amount of light loss you're going to have in that. And yeah, because it's like how big those probe lenses are not that they're not that high focal length, right? Probe lens. Let's see focal length. Yeah, the Venus Laowa is a 24 millimeter, but it's like this long. So how do you get a 24 millimeter lens when 24 millimeters is usually this long? How do you get that to stretch that far? You got to like really. I'm not quite sure quite how you would do that optically. It doesn't even make sense to me. So it's like putting a ton of extension tubes on your thing. So you're going to have a very, 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 very dark, very, very small aperture. Let's go back to your comments. Where is it? It's going away. There we go. All right. And then there's Zack Snyder. Someone should do an edit on how long his movies would be with all the slow motion played back at real speed. Well, Zack Snyder has got his own thing. I don't really occupy much of my brain thinking about Zack Snyder. Blackmagic releasing a 17K large format camera. Any thoughts? Personally, I'm yet to see a full frame shot movie that would rival Super 35. Maybe we're just too conditioned to like Super 35. I do not care about the Blackmagic. I think there's a larger. Was it 12? So they just announced this. At NAB they announced the 12K, like the full version camera, and so I'm trying to see how I can describe it. So the way 12K, and I think this is my own understanding. This is gonna again. I'm saying this is my own understanding because I was kind of curious about how 12K worked and why they did the way they did it, and it's how can we say this? It's from everything I can understand with my own monkey brain is that it is a good 12. The way they're doing 12K is in order to achieve a very clean 444 full color 8K, because they use what's called a RGBW sensor, which has red, green, and blue photosites plus a white photosite for just capturing black and white luma, right? And they do it in a certain way in that you basically can derive a full 444 full color 8K image out of the 12K sensor. The 12K sensor is not your 444 color. It's less than 444. It's 422. You can do that with a lot of different sensors. The Bayer system works that way too, and that you can take a 8K image and you can, if you squeeze it down to 4K, you get 444 coloring, that kind of stuff, right? So the white value kind of acts just changes the way the math can be handled, and allows you also to scale it in a way that's really effective. But it just seemed like the 12K camera just didn't really like find a foothold, because it's just, people weren't that interested in it. It just isn't that exciting. So if you're talking about a 17K camera, I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's the problem with being a filmmaker. Sometimes we get obsessed with pretty images, but we don't understand. Like, there's nothing. I'm not excited by stuff. I'm not excited by that kind of stuff. I want to see really good stories and stuff like that, or movement. I don't know. I'm at the point where I'm like, I've got literally all the gear. I just don't have the energy or time to make what I want to make. So I'm bringing it down to my own personal anxieties and stuff like that. It's that I don't have the energy and time to do what I want to do right now, at least. Maybe I got to try to change it so that it works that way. Right now I'm dealing with like cash flow. It's like, come on, people owe me money. Pay up. But which reminds me, I got to go to the bank and put some money in the bank. Helium Road saw 2001 in theater, and it wasn't widescreen. Boo. Boo. I saw someone saying that he had a terrible experience watching Double Indemnity theaters because the couple laughing all the time and the old-timey English expressions and the transatlantic accent. Well, theaters can suck. I think I said that on last stream about a month ago, was that the worst experience I've ever had in a movie theater was watching Spider-Verse Across the Spider-Verse Part 2, or Part 1 of, no, 2, Part 1. And I was in a room with just demonic teenagers. Like, I would seriously, if the death penalty existed for moviegoers, they would deserve it. And I would pull the electric shock on them without a hesitation. They were that awful. I hated it. I hated the experience. But I would rather that than sit at home alone wearing stupid VR goggles to watch a movie. No, thank you. That's all right. It's always the risk. There's always the risk of going to the movie theater like that. But then again, there's always the risk of going to the movie theater and then having a great experience, having a crowd that's really excited and having fun. And, I don't believe necessarily watching movies in silence. I don't, having people laugh, having people, cry. Well, maybe not cry. Bawling. There's something about being communal. I don't want to take people out of communal. I'm one of those people that felt that COVID wreaked way more havoc on society, getting us to be distant and apart. I don't like that at all. So I do prefer people being together. It's not that we are conditioned to like Super 35mm. It's most cinema glass has PL mount for Super 35 in mind, using larger sensors such you out of a lot of cinema glass options. True. So nowadays there's getting a lot more large format stuff is coming online. Bruin Fights remembers the K debates in the 2010 to 2013. A lot of opinions lean toward Latitude over big Ks. Yeah, that's why Arri Alexa stayed with 2K for like years and years and years and years and years. Like forever. Have I much experience with hazy lenses? Have you ever fixed a hazy lens? No. I've actually kind of looked into like getting a hazy lens, like the old, like there's a product out there that you can put like after your lens, I believe, and it will create that haze and that bloom and all that fun stuff that people like. But I think the opposite. I think people like to add haze to a lens rather than remove haze. Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like Bullet Science is like, hazy, do you mean mold or lenses and older quality stuff? He's cleaned a lot of lenses. What's those Canons, the old Canon L series or something like that? Canon L series lenses? No, not the L series. I don't know. There's the old style lenses, and then there's some Soviet lenses that people like because it creates kind of this lo-fi, hazy look to it. And then there's that. I think we talked about that bullet signs. Wasn't there? There's that one product that's like a. Is that a filter or is that something that you actually add to stuff? Pro Mist filters for your haze. Yeah, that's one of the things you could use. Is Pro Mist. They do have. They do. Tiffin does sell like a haze, like actual called haze, right? There's a bunch of stuff. North says haze caused by balsam separation in the elements. I never even heard of that. Balsam separation. Lens balsam separation. What it looks like. Interesting. The angry photographer. Try to stay away from anybody that calls himself the angry photographer. It's just usually not a good idea. I've never messed with balsam separation or even heard of it. That's kind of interesting. I think I was on Reddit and somebody was saying like, "Hey, what's up with oh shoot, it's getting late. What's up with all these the Fallout movie and Fallout show where they have like blurry edges?" And it was like, "Guy, dude, this is a big production. That off-center, filter or off-center clarity was purposefully done that way. It's not they didn't just like, oops, we didn't clean our lens that day." No, that's legitimately artfully placed there for a reason. By the way, on eBay, I'm trying to sell. I'm trying to sell I bought a couple like what do you call those things? Cinema lenses, cinema projector lenses, and it was just I just need to get rid of them. So I put them on eBay. They're gonna charge me $60. Jeez, all right, fine, $60. Try to sell them. That I don't think they'll sell. That's the problem. I think they'll just sit there for a long, long time. Who owes me money? Oh yeah, City owes me money, and yep, big time money. I'm just looking at my email. What's going on here? All right, let's back to you guys. Humanity needs a social contract and to bond with others over liking the same things. No man is an island. We are social animals. We can't ever live truly alone in our bubble, not even close. Amen, brother. Yeah, I feel. I don't know. I think young people are especially susceptible to this idea that they can live in their own bubble. I don't know. I think some of my friends are like that too. They kind of like they can live in a disconnected from the world, and I don't know. I've been this whole week I've been doing the tech shows. To be fair, the tech is very hard on me because I'm sitting next to a monitor. And those sound people are not the best in the world. And I think they have everything dialed up to the point where it's just compressing stuff. Like there's some sort of compressor built into their system so it doesn't completely fry the equipment. But they're riding that red line like constantly. Like the kids are like yelling their lines, which okay, you can yell your lines, but it's hitting that brick wall or something. It's hitting a brick wall limiter, and it's frankly hard to take it for 2 hours the way I have to take it. And so I don't leave those rehearsals in the greatest mood. I leave those rehearsals sort of in a overwhelmed, overstimulated, like I need to take a break mood. So my whole week has been very, very alone. Like I'll go to work, I'll talk to people on the phone, but it's like I don't get to have lunch or don't get to have dinner with anybody. It's kind of lonely, so kind of sucks. So yeah, my whole point with that is like I've been craving some friendships and I want to see some people. So I'll change. I mean, soon it will change. Vaseline smeared on the lens. Yum, yum, yum. You can also use the old nylon sock technique, nylon pantyhose. Just be sure you ask her permission first. Wink. I'm talking about your mom. Like, ask your mom if you can use her pantyhose. Don't just rip them off your actors. Okay, to pitch you anything, that most people won't have a single full frame shot film in their top 10 favorites. It's true. Moldy lenses are my jump scare. There you go. Cinema Elements is also jump scare. Element separation. Ugh. Best tip for preventing mold in lenses: those silica gel packets you find stuff, keep and store them in your lenses. Gel gets rid of the moisture. There you go. I live in California. We don't ever have moisture issues. I've seen articles talking about the increased popularity of books with Gen Z over the years as they see the medium as a great escape for suffocating digital world and instant gratification. I hope so, because Gen Z is, well, Gen Z, we don't know what to make of Gen Z yet. We don't talk about Gen Z yet. My boss once asked me if we had any old school bloom filters in stock. He responds on the phone, "You're not shooting 70s porn, are you?" There you go. I said, yeah. I mean, the nylon sock, or nylon pantyhose thing is still a viable option. They actually do sell a filter that is nylon, like a nylon, like cloth inside the lens. They prefer paper books over ebooks. By the way, I'm Gen Z. I also like books, and libraries are a great way to connect with others, since the reason for their increased popularity. Also because they're cheap. No, the thing is, I appreciate people that like books. The thing with me and paper books is I tend to read when I find that I like to read when I'm like falling asleep, and I just cannot hold a book open. Like, there's a convenience to the ebook that works for me. Although I appreciate the whole idea of paper book, but it's just, I want to fall asleep. Bullets, Certain's asking, do you often use issues when you're removing mold? Well, I'll let you guys work that out. Who needs friends when they have us? That's true. We are friends. We are all friends. For next April Fool's, could you do a Filmmaker IQ video on techniques on porn filmmaking? People would not think that was an April Fool's joke, because the April Fool's, it just lasts forever. I had ideas for April Fool's jokes. I had an idea for advertising my new camera stabilizer, which is basically 2 cinder blocks and a piece of wood between them. It's like, look how steady your camera is now. And it's just lugging a cinder block around. I thought that'd be kind of cool. Yeah, there you go. The Canon K35s. That's the one that's the one I was talking about. The K35. There are filters that kind of emulate that look. I was kind of curious about them. Whoa, $7,000 for a single lens. That's that. Oh, that's a C. That's not the K35. That's a Sumir Prime. Oh, I love this. The Light Cine camera for 12 lens kit. Oh, this is awesome. I can just get this guy. Lights Cine Sumilix C T1.4 12 lens kit PL mount marked in feet. It's only $450,000, guys. Come on. You don't need to buy that house. You can just buy this set of lenses. I love it. Use your Paybu credit card for only $37,000 a month. I should show you this thing. You guys got to see this. All right, jump into that. Boom. There's that one. That's what I'm looking at. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. That's beautiful. 450 grand for 12 sets, 12 pieces of glass. So each one's what? Got to be what? $5,000 each? I don't even tell you what. Like if I wanted 100 millimeter, they don't even tell me. They don't even bother. Like, no, you gotta buy the set. 550 grand. Okay, I cannot fathom that at all. It's like, I don't have 450 grand. It's 450 grand just to make the movie. Set of Zeiss K35s got for 85. So that 85,000 for 5. It's a little bit more in the realm. It's a little more in the realm of reality, even though that's a lot of money, but at least you can make your money back on it, like renting it out. Oh gosh. Anyhow, that was the K35. What was that? Yeah, what's that filter that I wanted to talk about? And then I got to get going because I got to go home and take a shower and get ready for the show. K35 filter emulation. I don't know. There it is. Media division. Is that it? The tuner. There it is. Tuner by Module 8. I think that's what I was looking at. Yeah, Module 8, spin-off of Moment. And these are little lenses that go, I guess, between your glass and your camera, and they basically allow you to dial in certain kinds of looks. Yeah, L3 tuner, L1 tuner Baltar look, and then the K35 look, retroscope. So this is, I was kind of curious about this, and I still am. Well, now that I see the price, I'm a little less. I'm a little less. It's like $2,500. Oh, here's okay. So this one, okay, this is a $1,200. Okay, that's a little bit closer. Why does it say $2,400? $1,200 I can kind of see. I'm talking about this guy here. Let's fade it to you guys here. There we go. This thing, L3 by moment. Let's see gear. Let's see if they have photo lens adapters. Nope. Go back. Not this time. Lens adapters. So these guys, 1,200. Here we go. L3 tuner retroscope variable look lens. But it's still saying $2,400, $2,500. That seems a little steep. But yeah, these little variable looks lenses. The thing is, though, like, yeah, see how that looks there? The thing is, though, none of my clients want this look. Like, not that they want any look. They just would say that, hey, your camera's messed up. Look how blurry everything is, dude. Dude, you need to freaking clean your camera. Like, no, my clients are corporate clients. They want clean, crisp, sharp-looking images. This would not fly very well. This would make me look unprofessional in the line of work that I do. So that's what sucks about it. But I'm kind of curious about it. I mean, it looks fascinating. Anyway, back to John. Get rid of these comments. There we go. Go away. There we go. All right. We'll hang out for a few more minutes, and then I got to get going because I got to get back to work. I didn't even clean as much as I wanted today. I in my calendar, I said today was a cleaning day. And today I ended up I did take some stuff to my storage locker, so I got rid of some big bulky space. So I can actually walk out my back now. So because I've got to pack up tomorrow, I want to pack up tomorrow. So I at least can move stuff back there. So I guess I did something, and I live streamed, which means I kept my channel somewhat alive. Right? There's going to be a few people watching this later. I got 13 likes. Awesome. So yeah. Anyhow, why did I forget my point? All right. Yeah. Let's go back here. K35 rental price is about 300, 400 pounds per day. That's not too bad. I like to look at the B&H catalog just to find the most expensive gear. I'm going to New York in the 1st of June, like the first week of June. And I've never been to New York City in my life. I've always wanted to go. And now I said, now I shall go. And you know one of the stops I'll be making? I'm going to force my friend Joe to go with me. B&H. I am going to B&H. I'm going to take my Nikon film camera. I'm going to shoot some film. I need to shoot some film in the next couple weeks. we got a date trip, set. I want to take some photos on the date. But I want to take photos. I want to take some film. I want to go to B&H, buy some film there, and then shoot some film in New York City, and then I'll probably just send the film out right then. I don't want to send it. I don't want to go through, X-rays and all that stuff. So I want to send the film out and get it developed. I got my Nikon F3, F2 or F3. I think it's F2. It's the one that actually was in Alex Garland's Civil War. The girl was shooting with it. And I was like, I have that exact camera and I have that exact lens. Media Division is cool. Media Division, I don't know. I mean, I haven't been keeping up with her stuff. I kind of a little bit of he was trying to say something about some sort of lens changing. Like he was saying something about focal length changes with something, and it wasn't quite right. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I kind of didn't really get what he was saying. But hey, you're 15, 12 time zones away. My goodness, you're far away. You're like in India or something. But anyhow, yeah, that Media Vision, it just seems his stuff is very well shot. It just seems so deadly focused on gear, and I just I don't have a heart for gear anymore. Baltar, yes, like the guy from Battlestar Galactica. So there's a song in the show Edwin Drood, which is called Cylon, and I'm like, Cylons. And what Cylon is actually referred to is the old British name for Sri Lanka. I didn't know that. Now in the musical, it's weird because they changed it. Now I don't know why they changed it. So yeah, Cylon is actually the historical name for Sri Lanka. And they changed the characters from being from Sri Lanka to Canada. So it completely ruins the whole song, Cylon. But I guess they're playing with the fact that no one knows that Cylon, Ceylon, was actually referring to Sri Lanka. And the thing is that the song called Cylon is like very Sri Lankan, if you know what that is. Sri Lankan, isn't that near India? Or it's like Bangladesh and that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, it's just off the coast of India, Sri Lanka. Like sitars and stuff like that. Very exotic sounding. But then the characters are from Canada. So, right, go figure. My nose is itching. Been using a Sigma Art Primes with the EF mount. Fits all my Blackmagic mirrorless and super clean lenses. There you go. I love my Canon. I've got a Canon Cine lens, but it's a Cine with a servo zoom. I've had that for like 4 or 5 years now. I still love that lens. It's super clean. And I've got a Sony lens on my Sony camera, which I'm going to shoot tomorrow. And I got some Canon lenses myself, but I don't do primes so much. I do a lot of zooms, but I should go back to primes. Primes are fun. I got the Nikon Prime on the film camera. I want to go shoot some of that. There's research saying the big problem with the web is that it actually expanded the range of people and opinions that we get contact far more than what our brains can cope with in real life. Interesting. For all the hype of the Zeiss K35s, the lens before the K35 is good, called the B speeds, are a $200 a day rental. That's pretty good. I think experimenting would allow you to find a similar looks for a more affordable price if you're patient. What do you mean, like, or the case stuff? Biggest difference in cheap lenses and cinema glass is the travel of focus. John will explain. I'm not quite sure. So like comparing my Canon cinema lens to like every other lens I have, there's something about the Canon cinema lens. It's just that when you can't judge it on a phone and you can't judge it on a YouTube video. Like I hate all these like these videos the cinema lenses are not worth it because it's like, no, you've got to look at it like almost, if you're shooting 4K, you got to look at it in 4K. You'd be like, holy crap, the image is so like sharp. Well, not say sharp, but it's like so clear and crisp, and the color renditions, for some reason, just the colors work really well. And the edges are nicely sharpened. There's just something about cinema lenses that it's almost. I mean, I lack the vocabulary to describe it. Maybe I also have the lack the experience to describe it. But there is something about really good glass that feels different than just like your run-of-the-mill, photo camera, like starter lens kind of stuff. There's just something about it. It's hard to explain. Yeah, so NYC, I'm going to go, we're going on a Sunday night, so I'm going to red eye it, and then we'll get there Monday morning, and then we'll hang out for a while, and then we'll find our hotel room, hoping I can get sleep on the plane. We'll see how that goes, And I know for sure, there are a couple things I want to do. Well, we're going to see a musical on Broadway, which is going to be the Back to the Future musical. I'm like, okay, whatever. My friend's like, I heard good things about it. Okay, all right, we'll go see it, whatever. And I'll definitely gotta go see like Statue of Liberty, B&H Photo, and I gotta have some real New York pizza. Like that's a must-have. If I have time, gotta go to a bodega and get like one of those pastrami sandwiches that are piled high. So you gotta do that. Come on, pastrami and rye. That's what you gotta do. You're in New York. Yeah, in New York, you can tell which people are tourists and which one are New Yorkers by the looks of their faces. Crowded, walkable, classic city, far cry from the typical cookie cutter U.S. suburban hell. Yep, that's what I'm kind of curious about. American Cinematographer Manual, Bible part, which are the most important resources to learn only the technical aspects of DP? Are there any industry standard manual or book of reference? I think the manual is probably good enough. Like the technical aspects of being a DP. I think the manual is probably enough. Like I don't, the craft of the craft matters more than the technical stuff. The technical stuff, I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. There's probably a lot of books that would satisfy that criteria. I mean, there's not a whole lot more technically that you would need to know, at least as a starting point, because the rest of it comes from experience and the art, craft and artistry of being a director of photography, and less so about just knowing plain, like you could know all you knew, you could know everything about the chemistry of paints. You can learn all about the chemistry of how, or the process of making a bristle of a brush, but unless you start applying it to the actual painting of an image, then you don't really know how to paint an image. So, yeah. Oh yeah, there you go. John Alton's Painting with Light. That's another example. No, I'm never going to sing that. Yeah. Although that's a hard song to sing, the New York, New York song. It's a very hard song to sing. Have I seen the new miniseries of John Clavin's Shogun? I know. I haven't watched anything, but that would be something I would like to watch. I want to watch the Shogun. I want to watch. I was curious about a Benjamin Franklin miniseries on Apple. That might be fun. I don't know. I haven't had time to watch anything. I still haven't finished For All Mankind. We need to finish that. I started watching Fallout when I was in Vegas, with my friend, but I got so tired I just fell asleep after the first episode. So I gotta go back and watch Fallout. There's a bunch of stuff I gotta watch. Can 1880 with the servo? How do you power the motor through the mounts? How do you power the motor through the mounts contacts? Yeah, that's the one I have. Yeah, it's just it's the power comes straight from the contacts on the lens. So I'm just looking at the time. I would describe some high resolution footage I've seen on older lenses as organic. Yeah, I think that would be good. I think that'd be a good description of it. The Lens Bible, that's very manufactured lens. There is a Lens Bible that has every manufactured lens for film. It costs like £200. It's called the Cine Lens Manual. Is that Jay Holben's book? I think it might. I think that might be Jay Holben's book. Yeah, that's Jay Holben's book. Definitive Filmmaker's Guide. So on Reddit, I got into this one guy was arguing with me about depth of field, and he thought Jay Holben's book was saying something different than what I was saying was when it comes to like um, uh, magnification. So the way, because what Jay Holben's book, and this is what's so frustrating about explaining like depth of field to people, is that there are oftentimes words are being used to describe phenomenon in different ways. So when you see magnification on like we talk about magnification as in blowing something up, like a crop sensor is magnifying the image because it's taking the same image circle and getting a smaller part of it, so you magnify it bigger when you put it on the screen. That changes the depth of field. Now, however, if you magnify an image using the lens only, and then you rearrange the distances, you may not change the depth of field, that kind of thing. And it's one of those things where it's like, I think if you just were able to sit down with the basic geometry of a lens and understanding the properties of how depth of field works just from a perspective of just geometry, then all those depth of field questions get solved. Like, they're just obviously solved. It just makes sense. But people don't go down that path because I think, and I was guilty of it too, was that I was that I approached this thing from more of like from the experience side rather than from building it from the ground up. If you build it from the ground up with the math, with the geometry, it's clear as day. It's almost like Zen. It's so clear. But if you try to build it from this other angle where you're like, well, if I do this and if I do this and I do this, so he's arguing against like the idea that if you wanted a shallower depth of field, you could just move your camera back and zoom in and it'd be a shallower depth of field. That's not true. It's actually the same depth of field. It's just that when you move further back and you zoom in, you magnify the background. The distance between the foreground and the background, the ratio changes. And so you get the background's bigger, but still the same level of out of focus. It's just bigger, so it looks like it's more out of focus, even though it's exactly the same amount of out of focus, which is an interesting phenomenon. But you could also argue that, well, it doesn't matter that the depth of field doesn't change. It just the background looks flatter and bigger and looks kind of blurry. So you could argue like aesthetically it looks better. But anyhow. So I was discussing this guy on Reddit for like hours, going back and forth. I was just trying to just look at the math, just look at the math. And finally, I think he finally got it. And so like I was like, why is Jay Hoban disagreeing with me on this topic? And he's not. It's just people interpret what he's saying as something different than what I'm trying to say. And I feel bad because I did shoot an interview with him. I never did release it because I never found time to get it to work. I should. Well, back then I was trying to do interviews that were like pointed and edited. Nowadays I probably just do a podcast and just talk about it forever. Take care, Matthews. Hopefully you heard that. What is my advice for working with actors, and what do you want actors do or don't do on a set? What is your advice for working with actors, and what do you want actors to do or don't do on a set? Okay, so what I want actors to do, honestly, is to be prepared. Like, what I really want is people to come to set knowing the lines, like just knowing them backwards and forwards. It doesn't always happen. And actors sometimes have a hard time, they require rehearsl. So a lot of times, I want to start building that. If I do another project, I want to do some rehearsing. I want to build that into my filmmaking. I don't want to, all the filmmaking I've done, I've kind of done it with like, let's just rehearse it on the set, the scene on the set, and then we'll do it. But I want to get actual rehearsals and then practice the stuff. Cause I feel like that would help, a performance better to have a rehearsal or two. So my advice for working with actors, you have to play the room. You have to know the people that you're working with, and you just kind of have to know what it is you want. Sometimes it helps if you know how to edit too, and you know how, I'm going to cut here. I'm going to let that go here. So understanding the whole process, to be able to see it to the end, can help you figure out whether you have what you need. And sometimes I find a lot of times in filmmaking, sometimes you get stuck in we're just doing this because I want to do it. I already have what I need. If that makes sense. It's like, you don't necessarily need another take. Like, you have the take. You don't necessarily need another one, but you want another one, but you want it, so that's what I'm saying. It's, basically what I'm saying is I'm confusing myself. Knowing what you need, knowing what you want, and then have actors be able to deliver you what you want, and then maybe add some more to it. Are we getting this kitchen sink soon? I want to. That's what I want to do next. It's just so the problem with that is if I release those videos, I know I'm going to be forced to make those videos or make them, like actually shoot them for real. And I don't have time right now to do that. So I'm just kind of sitting on my butt. Well, I'm not sitting on my butt. I'm working my butt off to get everything else done. Go to set with all your blocking done after rehearsals. Yeah, there you go. I mean, that would be the dream. But I think a lot of times with filmmaking, it's like sometimes you're just forced to just rehearse on the set. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the focus with the lasers explains the geometry visually. Yeah, I want to do more of that. So my class on cinematography is not going to be happening this fall. So because they didn't get the grant or the paperwork done in time. So, which is fine because that way we can gear up. So I haven't written my class on cinematography yet, but I want to do the laser stuff with cinematography. I saw a really cool demo on Reddit today where the guy took 3 RGB flashlights, but I think probably RGB LEDs, and he put them together so that they all combined to create white light. But then he put a slit at the other end of it, and then you could see he basically reconstituted the red, green, and white lights. It was really, really cool. So I want to try to build that if I can, something like that. Okay. All right. It is getting close to 5. I need to get going. I need to go home and get a shower. I need to go. I'm dressed like this. It's my muscle shirt. Oh yeah. Ooh, yeah, baby. Anyhow, I got my muscle shirt on, so I'll probably put on a shirt over this too, because I like the muscle shirt because it covers my arms because of all my gnarly tats that I've gotten recently. I'm sorry you haven't seen the tats. Like I have like a dragon going down my. Just kidding. I don't have any tats. No, I like to keep my arms covered when I'm in the theater because it can get a little cold. So yeah, so that's why I have the shirt on, but I'll put another collared shirt on top of it, and yeah. Yeah, baby. All right. I'm facing a crazy, crazy couple weeks. So pray for me. And yeah, shall see you guys later. All right. Stay tuned. I'll try to get on stream. I'll see if I can find some time. We'll come back. We'll do some streaming. Okay. All right, guys. We will see you. Fade to black.